Yes, on email. In recent years, it's felt less and less common for clubs to make one single marquee signing that genuinely transforms their fortunes. If you agree, which players would say fit that description from recent times?
Ooh, the old marquee signing, eh?
Yeah.
I wonder if this happens a bit less frequently now because there's a bit of an imbalance towards the sort of super clubs where they hoover up all the talent. So it feels like
all of their
one single player is going to make less of an impact.
All of their players are marquee signings to anyone else.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
But for them, it's just another player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean. I think that it's... the big transfers. I mean, there's been plenty of chats this time round that big clubs are buying younger.
Yeah,
because of the physical demands of football nowadays, and they want players to be there long term. They're not going to pay, like, Real Madrid for Zinedine Zidane or something, an enormous fee for 29 or 28 or something like that. So yeah, it's slightly different, and I think because of the financial constraints of football nowadays, to splash an enormous amount of cash is a little bit less. But you still do get some big signings, but it tends to be
low. Ticket price, high wages, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Bit Mbappe kind of thing.
Yeah, well, there's that, but also there'll be a player who had a good season in the Bundesliga or something, and you think he's 45 million.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Or like, I mean, Nicola Pepe at Arsenal was like a great example of that. How had a pretty good season in Ligue 1 and then signed for an enormous amount of money. And I think that signing and a number of other signings, clubs go, do we really want to spend 80 million or something on one player?
It's age profile, isn't it? As you say, as you rightly point to, that stacks a lot of zeros on the end.
It does, yeah. Jim, when you think of the question, though, there's a single marquee signing that transformed a team's fortunes, and this, the interpretation is it transforms their fortune, could be a player who, the ultimate example would be like Maradona at Napoli, right?
Sure.
But obviously there's not that recent where he completely changes their fortunes around.
Yeah.
Whereas sometimes buying a player to get them over the line to win that trophy or to kick them on is
fortunes is contextual within the realities of each club, isn't it? I think the ultimate one, painful though it is, would be Robin van Persie for me. Man United won the league because of him that year. And actually, if you look at, obviously there's a lot to unpack about why Man United kind of so desperately fell apart under David Moyes compared to what happened the season before with Alex Ferguson. It did expose that was a quite limited squad who Ferguson did incredibly well to win the league out of. But Van Persie scored so many goals, hit the ground running, pretty much injury-free in a way that he'd rarely been at Arsenal. And that was one where it was just like, I think that's the most extreme example I can think of where you go, they won the league because of that one player.
Yeah, and with Van Persie as well, obviously he'd been at Arsenal for so many years, but it became quite apparent that he wasn't going to win the league anytime soon as the seasons were going by. And for a player of his talent and also his disposition, I suppose, he was very hungry and very ready to win that league title. And he was no spring chicken at that point. He was old, but he was a very experienced player at this point.
He was in his peak.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have sold him under any circumstances. It's the thing I'm still most angry at Arsene Wenger about.
But you're happy
that's beside the point.
But you're happy for young Robin to win that league title, though, weren't you, Peter?
Yeah, I was.
It's a great example, though.
Yeah.
A really and a modern example as well of
but you sort of benefited from Sol Campbell crossing the floor,
absolutely,
which is obviously a big emotional move, and going from Spurs to Arsenal, and he got a POS from it.
He won the double in his first season as well, so that is actually another really good example of that, of a game-changing individual.
I can't remember how expensive he was, but I imagine he was very expensive.
He was no money.
He
never commanded a transfer fee at any point in his career.
He just ran it down, and man of honesty. Not even to Notts County.
Not even Notts County. Okay. No one ever paid for Sol Campbell.
A stranger time. I mean, So, Chris did say from recent times. We'll include Sol Campbell from recent times. I think that's fair.
Recent times, right?
Yeah, in the 21st century.
He's still at large.
He's still, and he's a really normal guy.
He is a really normal bloke.
Yeah, Peter. Any ones that leap to mind for you?
Well, I genuinely think we've had a couple. Newcastle United have had a couple. Kieran Trippier being the big one, I think.
I like that.
Like it was all about his wages, I think, as we said before. But big personality. Came with he was of an age where you sort of like, right, okay, he's probably got one decent a couple of seasons, and we've definitely got 2 really, really good seasons out of him. And he was a captain and everything, but namely, he transformed. I know Newcastle spent a lot of money elsewhere, but
more
he
than
was
Bruno Guimaraes.
But he was but he was the first one.
The captain, the leader.
I think there's a reason why you could probably say you could lose Bruno out of that side and still. It wouldn't be as good, but you'd still maintain the shape. But Kieran Trippier was just a step above everybody else, and he embodied everything that Eddie Howe was going to be trying to do in this side. And it was really, really, it was a really, really strong move.
He left me with egg on my face because I told him not to go there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I say I told him, I said it on this podcast.
And he doesn't reply to your DMs, does he? So you've got to say it here.
He really doesn't. I thought you were going to say Salez.
Yeah, but I mean, we only had him for a very short period of time, and then absolutely mugged him off, and then he. It
was still a signing, though.
Yeah,
still a big signing.
You'd say Alan Shearer then, presumably, wouldn't you?
Well, but
is
though?
It about that though? It's about a single signing transforming,
which is why I think Ferdinand fits the bill more than Alan Shearer, because Shearer. It was a kind of a continuation, but
Ferdinand was very much picking up the pieces after Andy Cole left.
Yeah, but also it was like
we had Paul Kitson.
That's
some
true.
Respect.
That's true. Okay, maybe I do need to have some respect.
I think Erling Haaland counts in this because City standards are so high. They've been looking to win the Champions League forever, basically.
Yeah.
And he comes in, does so well, they win a treble.
Yeah.
Like, that is the ultimate goal for any club, really, if you're going to sort of look to the extremes.
You can interpret it like that. I think having Haaland is fair. Because that Champions
I know
League...
it's quite a boring answer, but I do think it counts.
No, I do think it counts as well, because again, it's getting that side over the line in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And it seemed crazy that they'd gone so long under Pep, and well, not crazy, but it did seem a bit.
It was an issue, wasn't it?
It was an issue.
It was a stick to beat them with.
Exactly, and had they not have won that, and Guardiola had have left, not winning the Champions League with Man City, it's a bit like we laugh at PSG have never done it, but I think with Man City with Guardiola, it would have been more of a thing. You could say the same about Cristiano Ronaldo when he went to Real Madrid. Now, I know they
that window was mad.
Yeah, they signed. They made a few signings that season.
If you can't remember, they also signed Kaká and Karim Benzema in that same window. The whole point was it was like Galacticos 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. But he was the marquee signing compared to those two.
They spent the most on him,
and they hadn't won the Champions League for a bit. And La Decima, of course, had
become a massive albatross for them.
And it's fair to say that Ronaldo and his teammates, but him leading the charge, put all that kind of, they haven't won the Champions League for a bit to bed, firmly to bed. They become the first side to defend the Champions League. I mean, 3 times in a row they won it.
How do you get put firmly to bed? Like you get pushed into the the blankets.
I'll show you later.
Please do.
When we finish with the bikes, we're off to bed. So I think that's a good sign. A fair one is to say Haaland as well.
Yeah, I wonder maybe referencing crossing the floor as you said about Sol Campbell, maybe Carlos Tevez as well, because a sort of
statement of intent.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it was
the posters and stuff. Like
a bit of a shift in power, and also he was brilliant for them as well.
He was, yeah. Yeah, true. I'd like to pluck it's not that obscure when I mention the name Gabriel Batuta, but go back a few years to the turn of the century, the millennium, if you will, when Roma have just seen their city rivals Lazio win the league under Sven. And they think, we should respond. So in that window in the summer of 2000, they made the 2 big signings they made, you could say there was a few. There was like Walter Samwell was a big signing, and Emerson and Zabina. But Gabriel Batuta was the marquee signing. He was one of the finest forwards of his generation. Just when you say Gabriel Batuta to people who remember him, you powerful bastard. What a player.
Yeah.
And he joins them for a very high transfer fee. It would be a high transfer fee nowadays. It was about 36 million euros. And they hadn't won the league since the early 80s, and he finishes as their top scorer. Totti as well is in the side, by the way. They get over there and they win the league the year after Lazio win the league, and it is the last time they have won the league. They've only won 3 league titles in their history, and so a big one. And of course, the fans of Fiorentina were rather upset he left, having I think he just had a statue of him built outside their ground as well. I've got my statue. I'm off to get me league title. But again, like you think about great players like that, and just it's almost a bit like Harry Kane in a sense that well, Harry Kane hasn't won a major trophy, but Batistuta was at a club like Fiorentina for so long that you think a player like that nowadays,
an icon,
totally
like deified,
yeah,
almost.
exactly. And so it's just as well that in terms of if there's any kind of footballing justice in terms of trophies won. I mean, he won a couple in Argentina, but really that Serie A title, okay, won a Coppa Italia, Fiorentina, fair, but that is really his medal.
It stops it being a big story, doesn't it?
Totally,
which is why when Harry Kane finally wins the Bundesliga, which he almost certainly will very soon,
under Vincent Kompany,
it's going to be, well, we'll see, won't we? But I'm sure he'll get something.
A manager and trainers, no thank you.
Separately from this, and I feel this is a dereliction of duty on my part as well, particularly while you two are at Centre Parks, sliding around, doing what you do. We don't make enough of how Sven managed in Rome. Chaise longues, togas, grapes, orgies.
Yeah.
Imagine.
I feel this is not the time, Jim. But come to Centre Parks and we'll talk more. Jim, you've got the next one.
I do have the next one. It's from Joss on Instagram, who says, what does the Ramble see Pepe doing in retirement? How can he possibly be reintegrated into normal society? It's a good question, Joss. I heard a podcast a little while ago about these two boys who turned up kind of living in the wilderness in a small town in Canada. Have you listened to it?
I think I've heard the first half, so I can see the way that podcast is going.
Yes. So essentially, I won't name it, so I won't spoil it if that's how that works. But
I'm pretty sure you'd realise if you started listening to a podcast about that.
The two boys are obviously very messed up.
Yeah.
And there's a bit later on where they catch up with them later in life. And one of them is a YouTuber, and he's determined to live forever. And that's his thing, like he's really into eternal life. And he doesn't know how he's going to crack it, but he's going to spend his life trying to live forever.
I prefer that rather than the billionaire guy who's just trying to game the system.
Yeah, because this guy doesn't have these resources.
No.
He just really doesn't want to die.
So he's just trying different stuff, baked beans.
Hoping, just really hoping.
How old is he?
He would be probably in his 30s now.
Oh, so he's
smashing it so far.
Yeah.
Undefeated so far.
Definitely.
He probably came from the woods and just starting to live in a house. You're going, well, this is the safest place you could possibly be. There's no natural kind of people are going to get predators, so I'm not going to die.
No, it's piss easy this.
Yeah. Pepe should be studied by this guy.
Right.
Maybe he can become a sort of immortality influencer because it already exists. Pepe would have way more credibility than anyone who's already an immortality influencer.
I thought Pepe, I mean, there's like the obvious... Is this obvious? Maybe it isn't. Answer of dealing with pest control. I think would be pretty good. Something like that.
Exterminator.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. A bit like your father. But I thought to myself, having been watching series 3 of The Bear,
Yes,
that kind of restaurant or sort of take like a joint where you get a good solid meaty sandwich, and he would I don't know in where is he, Porto at the moment, somewhere like Porto, or maybe in Madrid or something. You turn up and
a veal sandwich.
Yeah, Pepe's there, like just and in The Bear, if you haven't seen it, it's quite fast. There's a lot of shouting and
I need hands.
Exactly, all
Behind.
that kind of stuff. Cousin! And all that.
Yeah.
Pepe just barking orders to members of staff. But when you deal with him at the counter, he's like, hey, how you doing, handsome? Good to see you. Oh, you're looking fantastic. What can I get you? You know what? Have a coffee on me. He's just really, really lovely and almost like avuncular as well. People would flock there. A, because it's Pepe, but B, because the sandwiches would be so good, the service would be entertaining, but he would give you a compliment, a rub on the head, but very much in a way of, I like you. Remember, I'm in charge, though.
There would be space for it in Porto as well, which is a beautiful city with
centre of Porto is
amazing food culture. But also they eat a lot of like fried food, and there's a thing called the Francesina, which is like it's like your daily calories in one thing. It's like a sandwich covered in this sauce.
Imagine Pepe doing that in a joint like that.
Because that's what I mean. It fits really well. Yeah. There is space for that sort of thing in that city already.
Pepe's
everyone looks amazing.
Yep.
I don't know how everyone looks so good.
Well,
given
probably don't eat those sandwiches.
Well, yeah, because only the tourists eat that.
It must be that. Yeah. I don't know where you get the other food.
I know.
But
Pepe'd have little hairnets on his eyebrows.
He would.
Tiny little ones, little nets.
It's a very hilly city. Maybe just they look great as they go up and down.
Maybe that's it. Yeah,
have a look at the calves. The calves of the people in that city. Incredible. Peter, any suggestions?
I
can't forget what the bloody question was, to be honest. I'm imagining Pepe in a cafe.
Disgraced FIFA delegate.
Pre-disgraced.
Yeah. I just think he should just be
left alone.
I think he belongs in a like a monastery or something. He's got the monk about him. I think he'd look good as like a saint because he's been the devil. for so many years.
Is this atonement for everything he's done
now
in his career?
he gets deified and he ends up in a stained glass window.
He seems like a fighting monk, though, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, maybe, yeah. Or one of those ones you see in Leicester Square who try and give you a book.
Yeah, that would be a turn up.
It's Pepe giving out books.
There you go. Could he, though, become... I mean, he's quite tough. We know this. He's pretty crafty. He can get up to all sorts without a referee spotting him. Could he become an agent for...
Mossad.
Right, everybody, it's time for a break. Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Now, we've got this from Tanya, who emailed this question. With Pete's rebranding from pessimistic Pete to positive Pete, I wanted to know who he's feeling the most positive about ahead of the new season. Now, we need to clarify, Peter, you were positive Pete for the Euros.
Yeah.
Was that just a summer fling?
With positivity.
Yes.
Yeah,
or
maybe.
are you going back to your old mistress pessimism?
I don't know how you guys feel about your respective football teams, but I'm still in the old Buffman's Bridge. I'm still not really quite there for getting into the new Premier League season, apropos my football team, because at this point, obviously with Newcastle there aren't any new signs. We signed that Sheffield United striker who looks good. He can't hit a barn door.
That is a problem.
It's almost Amiobi-esque.
I don't think Isak's not got a
curious one, that,
but
isn't
he'll. I think he'll get there. But I don't think he'll. I think he's back up for Isak.
He's not for now, is he?
He's not for now. But Callum Wilson, he will be for now because Callum Wilson's always injured. But so for that, I'm not necessarily massively excited. And also, Trippier's coming back after a pretty poor close season tournament and stuff. And
close season tournament.
The old Euros. A little summer fling.
I honestly thought you meant pre-season tour, and then I thought, no, you mean he wasn't that bad at the Euros, was he?
Absolutely knackering pre-season.
I think he was a standout poor player, wasn't he? Everyone was talking about him.
Well, it was more an inbound. I have to defend.
YouTube algorithm over here.
This video's been rude because of the mention of Mossad, I'll tell you what. But I would say that, and also Newcastle United, the scales have been thumbed like 2 seasons ago. So I start the season going, this team, man, it's all just a bit.
So the pessimism's back.
It is actually. But I know as soon as they pull on the shirt at 3 p.m. on the opening weekend of the season or whenever they're playing, I'll be back on board because that's what football do to you.
So positive Pete is here to stay, is what you're saying? All indications point to Magic 8 Ball says just wait until the first match of the season, and I will tell you, yes, I'm back being positive Pete.
So you can't just summon positive Pete.
No,
not even as like a thought exercise.
I can't. He's shapeless like gas. He's like, you can't really sort of know what he is.
Okay, well there you are, Tanya.
Sorry, Tanya. But I presume Tanya's not only talking about how positive I am about my own football team, but also how positive I am about different teams in the Premier League. And I think Ipswich FC.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say they have a lovely time, but your definition of a lovely time might be crashing and burning, but you don't really care.
Do you mean
Saturday afternoon?
Ipswich Town, presumably
Ipswich
you mean
Town.
as well?
Yeah, sorry, Ipswich Town FC Athletic. 12:30.
Ipswich.
12:30 Saturday against Liverpool.
Yeah.
What a great way to start your campaign.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have a good time. At home. Come on.
What's Arnie Slot got?
What's Arnie Slot got?
That is a brilliant way to start, though, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Like, been away for a long, long time. You want these are the players you want to see in your home ground.
Yeah.
Damn right. So when you say the lovely time, what are we talking here? We're talking George Burley's Ipswich finished, 5th, was it? Or 6th, something like that?
Bobby
I don't think he's going to necessarily
win a European trophy somehow.
They probably won't do that.
Well, they can't do that this season.
No.
Not with that, actually.
Unless they start like mid-season tournaments, which would be unwelcome.
Yeah, but not impossible.
Maybe
Bang,
now,
new one.
But maybe now, we made it with AI. Maybe now Klopp's gone, you could do that because he was the big angry man about fishing congestion. All right, on to the next message. And this one comes from Patreon member Jay on our Discord. No idea why, but when I was a kid and my dad was taking me to Newcastle matches, I latched on to Kenny Wharton, famous for once sitting on the ball during a match. You could get away with being such a celebrity for doing one naff thing.
That's right, yeah.
Back then, as my favourite player of the time. I'd like to know which slightly obscure players the Ramble used to like when they were kids.
I used to, this is going to sound... do you remember the Aston Villa fullback, Alan Wright?
Yes.
5'4" and bald.
Yeah.
And basically, that's why I liked him.
5'4" and really poor. I'm ready for the game.
He wasn't poor.
He wasn't poor.
Did he have the sort of... Was he not bald on the side?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to love that.
Yeah.
Attilio Lombardo was a great example of that.
Another one,
the bald
Carson
eagle.
could get involved in a bit of that caper.
Do you reckon?
Pitbull could.
Oh, but Alan Wright. Because obviously back in those days you'd only see on Match of the Day. In fact, and growing up in Scotland as well, you would have one Scottish game and then two English games. So you could go a while without seeing. So you have to watch Football Focus on a sort of Saturday morning or early afternoon to see all the highlights the following weekend. But Alan Wright, yes, I don't know, it was about the way he would sort of gallop about the pitch, but this little bald chap, my mates and I he was pathetic really, but I just find it quite amusing. And he was quite a handy fullback. He wasn't a bad player at all. So just seeing him, and then another baldy as well, was the Swedish goalkeeper Thomas Ravelli.
Yeah,
we love Thomas Ravelli because he was quite eccentric, and you don't usually think that about, well, Northern European players, but in particular Swedish players, well, Scandinavian players. But he was very eccentric. A quality goalkeeper, played his whole career, other than a brief stint at Tampa Bay Mutiny, which is a wonderful name. Yeah. He played his whole career in Sweden. And you think about a goalkeeper of that quality would just never play their whole career in Sweden. Again, a sign of the times.
Gothenburg would always play Man United, I seem to recall.
So we would see him in the Champions League once in a while. But again, that was few and far between. But he played in a number of the tournaments. 1990, they played against Scotland, I think, so I'd have seen him there. 92, they played against England. 94, Sweden went all the way to the semi-final. Yeah. But he was just entertaining. There was something about this goalkeeper that I just really liked watching. Great longevity and a great character.
Yeah, big fan.
I quite liked Mark Draper, another baldy.
Oh my goodness!
Played for Villa and for Southampton. Just he was a bit tidy.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just had a bit of skill and a bit of quality about him. I might have completely misremembered it, and that's the thing with this sort of thing, isn't it? I might have seen him have a good game on Match of the Day once, and then remembered him as being that all the time. Also, for some reason, I really liked Mark Bosnich. Don't know why.
Similar interests.
Maybe it was just the novelty of an Australian.
Yeah, you could get. I mean, the first American goalkeepers when they started coming over, you're like, oh yeah, fucking yes.
Another baldy in Casey Keller.
Casey Keller, yeah,
and Brad Friedel, Marcus Hanneman.
Yeah.
A lot of that. Yeah. I also really liked David Batty.
Bicycle kick to the face.
Bicycle kick to the face. Apparently wasn't that into football. I didn't know that at the time.
Yeah, he's not come back, has he?
And he was he was such a tough tackler, and I remember really sort of appreciating that at the time because the Premier League was a bit more rough and ready, so those players stood out. Also, the thing I love about him most is that when David Beckham scored that goal for Man United against Wimbledon from the halfway line, a lot of people forget. Yeah. The Wednesday after that, David Batty did a really similar thing to Neil Sullivan, the same goalkeeper.
It's a beautiful goal.
Yeah.
Barring in, not as far out, but he hits it as it's moving towards him.
That's right.
It's so out of order to even try it.
Yeah, but
he doesn't try it if David Beckham hasn't done that the weekend before. It's a really lovely goal.
I think Alan Shearer might have scored his first Newcastle goal in that game. It was a free kick later on in the game.
David Batty was a surprisingly cultured footballer for a man who could really hurt you.
Yeah.
I know.
What you mean.
Him and Paul Ince was an absolutely monstrous combination in the middle. I don't know if they actually ever played together. I might have misremembered that. But yeah,
Iron Fist, Velvet Glove.
Yes, Peter.
Just a quick one from me, Scott Sellers.
You love him, don't you?
I love him.
I love that.
It's just kind of. I've got a Hawaiian shirt with him on. He just he wasn't there for a huge amount of time, but he just played in every position, almost as versatile as Steve Watson. But yeah, I just really liked him. I remember seeing him at Hartlepool at the debut, I think, of Ferdinand and I think Ginola as well. And everyone ran over to those players, and I ran over to Scott Sellers because I love him.
You did, didn't you? Yeah. One more I would like to say, although I suppose, again, a bit of context is needed here because a Champions League winner is not an obscure player.
Sure.
Okay, so, but in the great AC Milan sides of the sort of the early 90s and all that, like wonderful players that roll off the tongue. Paolo Maldini, and you go back enough to sort of the Ruud Gullit, Van Basten, but the player I loved in those squads was Dimitro Albertini. But again, I might be stretching the question.
I think that's reasonable because of the sudden brilliant thing we had in the 90s of Football Italia suddenly being on TV.
Yeah.
I loved Beppe Signori. He scored a lot of goals for Lazio, but he was little and he was quick.
Yeah.
Claudio Caniggia, all these names that you suddenly had.
Yeah, but I suppose they're not obscure though, because you're talking like goal scoring forwards and all.
I think Beppe Signori though he's not going to go down in the annals of time as an all-time great. Surely
he's not going to be added to FIFA as like a legend, is he?
No.
I don't think Beppe Signori is that obscure. He's the 9th highest scorer in the history of Serie A.
Fair. Fair. Can't argue with that.
Right, last question on the mailbag is from you, Jim.
Tilly has been in touch by the very traditional method of email. With a twist on your saying what's good for the Ramble isn't good for your club, who would you most like to see appointed New England manager for sheer content? Ooh. Phil Neville, Neil Warnock, Kevin Keegan, or Jake Humphrey?
It's not Humphrey, is it?
No, we can take him out of the equation straight away.
It has to be Neil Warnock.
Well, I think Warnock or Neville are the two of the more realistic.
No, because it would just be simply crap under Phil Neville.
Well, this is it, isn't it? I think Warnock has a style, and it's a style that England do have the players where they can play it in their sleep. Let's be honest, because it's not complicated and it's very physical.
Right, Phil. Little Phil, I need you
Phil,
to...
you're done. You're done.
No.
You're too short. No caps.
You need to get on the flick-ons, Phil. Yeah. Okay, work the channels.
Jude's now a winger. A man-beating winger.
I think with Neil Warnock, though, is like a lot of the players that have played under him have enjoyed playing under him because they're of a certain type of player or a certain calibre or whatever. Yeah. It would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Like not as kind of a sort of a gear change as say Sam Allardyce getting the England job, because again in the context at the time I think a fair few people, probably myself included, were a bit like I get that. Whereas now the England squad is better and England are producing a few more players.
Yeah, but it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Does he try and get the best he can out of the players available to him, or is Dan Burn getting 50 caps?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Nick Pope just trying to pick him out from goal kicks. So we're already doing it, aren't we? Like if Neil Warnock got the England job, it would be like, what's going on? But you'd have a smile on your face going, go on then, let's give it a spin.
And we've already done this with Allardyce, as you say. We had all accepted it and tried to become positive teeters as best we could.
I mean, Keegan get the England job, obviously. I mean, none of this is going to happen, hence we're answering this. Keegan's had a chance, though.
He has.
You know, I wouldn't want him to be all sad again, saying, I definitely now know without a shadow of a doubt I don't have what it takes at this level.
Quit in a toilet.
As I say, Fizzer would just be like, oh, Gordon Bennett, this is awful. Jake Humphrey, like, I'm not even going to answer that. So, I mean, the only other kind of answer you could give is if it, like Ian Holloway or something. It would be one of those traditional managers.
Ian Holloway isn't mentioned in the question.
What about Sean Dyche?
I am surprised that let's stay within the parameters of the question. Yeah. You have not even explored, as a thought exercise, the idea of Phil Neville as England manager.
No, because, come on. Phil Neville's over there, and I like him over there. All right? Okay, let me be clear.
What would it be like?
It would just be... I remember him as the Lionesses manager. It would be disappointing. I don't think that. I think it would just provide moans and groans.
It'd be clueless, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it would provide any kind of laughter and go, well, at least we enjoyed that press conference.
Yeah,
it was nice to see him on the touchline celebrating.
He would get angry a lot, wouldn't he?
He would try to get angry.
Right.
What about you, Pete? You've been very quiet so far.
Fucking respect.
Yeah.
Have some fucking respect. Who I think should do it?
Yeah, come on. In terms
out
of
the
those
list
four.
or out of the list?
No,
right,
no, you can expand that.
Okay.
Tyndall.
Sadiq Khan. give those absolute dickheads something to complain about.
That's true.
Yeah.
You were a little lenient on him the other week in the podcast, I might say.
I can't remember.
Yeah, when
Say a lot of stuff, don't I?
When he said about the Premier League games being played abroad, it's inevitable.
Well, it is inevitable, isn't it?
He didn't have to say it.
Yeah, but
he shouldn't have said
in the full interview. He said that's what happened. That's what happened. And he's trying to get WrestleMania in London. So
he shouldn't have said it.
What? You can't talk about what's going to happen.
No, because you basically
you become a cheerleader.
No, because
to be a realist, cheerleader.
It's going to happen. So we can't really put up much of a fight.
Yeah, but he's not in charge of the Premier League, though, is he? He's not in football. He's a mayor in a town.
He's in charge a city. He's in charge of London. He said, I don't want to see any of our beautiful football clubs going over there. I want them here. I want them staying here.
Surely he should be rivaling cities like Birmingham and Manchester and saying, I think it should be Villa Man United every year being played away, yeah? He should get in some cheap heat Bit of rivalry.
I don't know how. That's gone off on a tangent there. So you think Sadiq Khan should be England manager?
Drafted in, yeah. Because it would just upset a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
A lot of the right people, i.e. the wrong people.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
There we are. I think Warnock is the ultimate answer, though.
Sadly, yeah.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.